I think home for me is a place that immediately reminds me of my family. And that is a place that feels comfortable, safe, and constant.
I think it literally is the people that are around. Like, if it doesn't matter, I don't really care where I am, like the location per se.
It's the people and the place.
My interest in this subject comes from my own personal experience with home. I have lived in 25 houses in 21 years. To me, home is not necessarily about the physical place, but the people. If there's any space I identify with, it is Taos, New Mexico, where I lived for 15 years. I am curious how other people define home for themselves. Is it the place, people, or things? I started my research on home in Bar Harbor, Maine, with an ethnographic study in which I conducted structured interviews, life histories, participant observation, and mapping exercises. This research was limited in scope and time, but it did reveal very interesting themes about home that I hope to expand upon in this video. So, how do you define home? Many people I interviewed mentioned that home means comfort to them, a place where they feel at ease in their surroundings and within themselves. Comfort can be created with people, a physical space, or even a cup of tea.
It feels like a strong sense of wholeness, not empty.
I think that like the moments that I find the strongest meaning and the strongest connection to a feeling of home is when I've been in the most need of it. And so when I get it, it's just the most comforting feeling in the world of like, everything's gonna be okay. And so it's like, yeah, comforting.
It's really a place where I feel at ease and nothing can really disrupt that.
Whether it is the people or a physical space, I think it is important to ask, how does one create home?
You buy a house and you put people in it.
I basically create home by, well, here in Dickinson, I create home by communicating with people how I feel or expressing myself. So trying my best to feel connected to people and doing what I love to do. And what I love to do is, read books. I like to exercise. So these are the things that I'm able to keep constant in my life that help me have some sort of homey foundation.
If I have one person there, that grounds me enough and that gives me that sense of home.
I was curious to know if nature factored into the idea of home or how home is created.
Home is part of nature, right? So some organisms build a nest in a tree. We build a brick house with insulation and windows. It's what we do as a species. It's completely natural, just like what a worm does or a beaver does or any other organism. So building a house is very natural.
As Edward Abbey and many other famous nature writers show in their life and writings, the natural world is often how humans define and create home. Ultimately, we are products of nature. It is where we find solace and peace.
There have been actually a lot of times in my life where I've been panicking or I have just not been in a good headspace. And honestly, what seems to end up happening without me realizing it until literally this minute is that I end up finding a park somewhere and sitting in it for a very long time.
That's one thing, the park, that became my home. And just seeing, because I do live in a city, so the park is filled with trees, and that really just gave me a second kind of home because it had the environment, the natural environment. It wasn't a cityscape, it wasn't an urbanscape, it was grass and trees, and I think that's what I appreciated the most from that.
Every man, every woman carries in heart and mind the image of the ideal place, the right place, the one true home, known or unknown, actual or visionary. There is no limit to the human capacity for the homing sentiment. If home is comfort and consistency, how do homeless, displaced, and travelers find home? In 2014, there were 1.1 billion travelers globally. How do people keep the feeling of home when they travel?
Also, in the summer 2015, I went to Brazil on a summer mosaic for 7 weeks. When I was there, I wasn't necessarily homesick because I knew that it was only 7 weeks. Like when I first came to college, that was a big shift. So from like LA to Carlisle, that was a big change. It took me about a semester and a half to like really say, okay, this is what I need to adapt to and make, and I need to make, if I can't find a home here, I need to make it.
Traveling is difficult for me. And you know, like it's not some like, but like it's also great and it's also full of new experiences. So like I'm pro traveling. I just like have to mentally prepare myself for it.
In January 2016, 500,000 people were homeless on a given night in the United States. In 2015, 65.3 million people were displaced globally. In the future, I hope to understand how homeless and refugees define home, but for now, we can only speculate.
Houses in general, I always had them in my head like just something that's very transient, it comes and goes. There's this book that I've read, it's called The Alchemist, and the shepherd, it's this kid who's basically traveling across different lands so he can like find who he is. And he basically says he is a collection of the things he's been and like been through. So when I move to different places, I remember where I come from, and then I kind of like see what kinds of people I really can connect with, and I try to really like engage and develop relationships with them to sustain that, at least, you know, feeling of home.
The dictionary defines home as a house, apartment, or other shelter that is the usual residence of a person, family, or household. But as these interviews and research has revealed, home is more nuanced than that.
A home is where the people are.
Yeah, it's just where the people are.
Home are the people who I make relationships with.
Home, many windows, many exits, many floors. Go, it's good to grow, girl, so long as you